Hello, Marta, and nice to meet you in cyberspace. This will be some milestone 1 video feedback for you, and I'll cover 3.1 through 4.1. I usually go through the rubric pretty carefully. I might miss some categories, but you can open up the rubric and follow through. Marta, because this is probably the most interesting thing to your classmates, I'm going to look at the wireframes that you submitted in week 4 this week. And I see that you've got the three required sketches. You've done them in pencil. That's fine. Sometimes it's easier to generate a number of sketches using pencil. And I see that you have the navigation in 2 cases running across the top with the logo above them, centered above them, and then in 1 case down the side. So it sort of depends on your arrangement of images and text, whether you want them to do scrolling or whether you want them to have this always at the top, as a constant. There are advantages, I think, to either. I would recommend, starting out maybe something like this. Just be careful that, not to use up too much of this space. It's valuable screen real estate. Up here is where the eye falls. And so be careful or considerate, I think, about where you place things in that area, in the banner area. You've anticipated images too, and it looks like because you've made your wireframes in a more or less square, you've anticipated both horizontal landscape formats as well as vertical formats of small devices like iPhones. So that's good going. It looks pretty proactive in terms of design. And you've kept them appropriately sketchy, which is suitable for wireframes. Marta, I'm going to cut right to the other project, which I think most of your colleagues would be interested in next, and that is your page as it stands for your restaurant website. For that, I'm going to use the milestone 1 rubric. So it looks like you have a properly coded sitemap. I can see that because it shows up in your what will become your navigation menu. So that's good going. That's pretty advanced. I think that puts you certainly in week 5 category. So just to remind you of the HTML5 Foundations tutorial, chapter 2. And I think you can apply the tutorial to town, restaurant. So you're missing an image down here. I've looked at your code. Now, for that, I'm using Safari. And this is off screen, but if I go over to develop, I can scroll down here to page source, all right? And that will show me the code. What's nice about this, and most browsers will have a feature like this, you can do live editing in Safari, and I think Opera is another one that you can do, where it shows you the code, and then above it shows you, what your page looks like on the screen. But in any case, another thing that it does is it gives me a rough idea of your file management off here to the left. And I see, for example, that lots of plates, JPEG, it's in red here. That's the missing image. And I think you refer to it down here in your code somewhere, that in your code, it is in a images folder. Where is that? I saw it earlier. And on your server, though, it is not in an images folder. So make sure that things are placed, the file path here to this image matches the file path of the reference in your code. This is nice. I see you have abundant commenting on your code, and you've been able to upload it to GeoCities. Good going. So this is nice. Also, some rudimentary type, formatting, and you've gotten one of the corporate colors. Is this Athelas? It looks like Times Roman to me. Something to work on perhaps in the next couple of weeks, but it looks like you've got a good start on your website with a properly coded sitemap. Now, I just wanted to point out, here is a JavaScript that appears mysteriously on your page. It's what GeoCities places on your page. So if you live view your code, or if you cut and paste your code and see this popping up, know that it's something that makes your page searchable and identifiable, and it's not to worry about it. It's something that GeoCities puts on your page by default, and I guess it has to be there. So not to worry though. Great job overall. Sitemap properly coded. You have a file management structure. You've addressed that, so good going. Inline styling too. I'll talk about here. That was I think 3.3. You do have some inline styling. The idea, of course, is to get to an external style sheet, but just know that there are other ways of styling type. This is the most cumbersome one, inline styling, and it overrides all other types of styling. So you want to avoid it. What I mean by overrides other types of styling is that inline styling, which is I think week 3's exercise, takes precedence over CSS, external CSS, or embedded CSS. If you jump to external CSS, by next week, that's fine. Just want you to be aware that there are 2 other types of styling your page, and one of them, inline styling, which is the most primitive, I guess, is the easiest to do, but also the hardest to get rid of, especially if you have a large site. Lastly, Marta, was your excellent market research and planning, and I wanted to begin with that you have references. So really superb job, very lengthy. It was an extensive journal entry, and I appreciate the detail. I like some of your comments. I think you addressed the issue about the focus groups. You've identified your market exceedingly well, and you've identified other types of market research that you might consider doing. Of course, the obvious, which is to look at what the competition in the area is doing and how you can distinguish yourself. You mentioned, outdoor photography of the facility itself. And all this, would be to target town's target audience or target clientele. So good job on that, very thoroughly documented and researched.